This is the wireless way, where mobility, IoT, and innovation drive real business outcomes. Welcome to a unique episode of the wireless way. I have a new friend, a new guest here, Richard Heptinstall. He's with Ciena. And if you're selling fiber out there in the world today, you know the brand Ciena. Richard, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on here, Chris. It's an exciting opportunity. I'm actually joining you off the grid with a satellite connection right now. So it is wireless.
There we go. You're not going to get away from wireless, folks. Wireless is here to stay. But, what's so unique about this conversation is wireless requires hardware to make these things work. There's different hardware in the network. That's kind of what we want to talk to today. Before we do that, you go by Hep's your nickname. So tell me a little bit more about you.
Yeah. So I started in finance, moved into customer operations. And that's where I really got my exposure to the channel. And then I joined Ciena in 2013, where I had direct sales responsibility for one of our major accounts. And yeah, it's been a great ride over the last 26 years, and I've seen so much change.
Man, we have that in common. I've been at this about as long. And I tell people all the time, I spent, 17 years of my early career was all landline and dial tone. And just in the last 10 years or so, got into the wireless business. It's an exciting time to be in the business, which we should, that's what I want to talk to you today. What the opportunity, how's the opportunity different now than it was even 10 years ago? And, what are you seeing in the market in terms of how AI is changing the game? Is it really changing the games? So tell us, what's the state of the industry like when it comes to, advanced enterprise connectivity? What are you seeing in the market?
Yeah, so in my current role, I lead up business development for a number of accounts within Ciena, and it's sharing best practices and almost like a history professor to an extent. So if we take a look back over the last 150 years, there was the railway system and steam power in the 1780s, and then we had mass production and electrical power and assembly lines in the 1870s. Then in the 1960s, we had automation, computers, and electronics. And in the 2010s, we had the Internet of Things and networks and robotics. And today we have artificial learning, deep learning, neural networks. And so all of these kind of come on top of one another. That electricity was required for computers. The Internet of Things came from computers, and artificial intelligence is obviously coming from networks and computers and electronics. And so this is really the industrial revolution or catalyst over the last 150 years that I'm super excited about. If we look into it in our industry, Chris, it's really mega trends that have driven this. I'll call it over the last 22 years. And we can really start on June 29th of 2007. And that's what changed everything. And that was the birth of the iPhone. And that created monetization of the internet. And so that's mobile data service plans, streaming video, online commerce, rich media. We hop another 5 years ahead, and it's the cloud economy and the explosion of it, and distributed data centers, and the digital economy that we use today right on our phones to hail a ride share service or to book a hotel. And then after that, there was the digital transformation of networks, which was clearly driven by the pandemic. And that was hybrid work environments, hybrid learning, telehealth. And we really saw like the adoption of e-commerce because people weren't going to the supermarket, and people were, clicking and ordering more online. Definitely created a spike there. Now, in my view here at Ciena, the next, big catalyst is AI, and that's AI clusters, the metaverse, quantum computing, generative AI, robotics, automation, federated learning. There's a lot to it.
I remember a phrase, a technical trainer of mine in the past, he called it auto magically. A lot of end users just think technology just auto magically works. We don't think about all the things that have to go right for that sure to actually meet you where you are. We talked pre-show about some different use cases that you're really excited about how it's literally life or death. And again, when we're thinking technology, we're thinking about hardware and all the components that makes this technology work. Share with us a little bit about what are you seeing that is now possible.
Right. And so the idea of AI has been out there since 1950 or 1960 at Dartmouth College, is when it first started. It's now that we have the ability and the compute and the storage and the networks to actually support it. And so I put a big umbrella over healthcare. And so that is radiology, pathology, genomics, pharmaceutical drug development. And, if you just take a look at, large hospitals that have, purchased superpods and, thousands of GPUs, they have been training these GPUs primarily from a radiology perspective. And the amount of capacity, whether it's for a textual clinic support, a PET scan, an MRI, a CT scan, kidney tumor data set. I mean, these are large sizes and volumes of data on these scan. And so what's happening is hospitals are have stood up data center AI compute centers, and it's typically two of them. And they have optical networking in between the hospital campus, the two AI compute centers, and then also a carrier hotel where they will pick up third party data. So somebody that is out of network where they could send it back to the hospital to review. And so they take these scans at the hospital. It goes into these GPU data sets, roughly 150 trained models today that are continuously being trained. And then it comes back to the radiologist for final review. The staggering thing about this is, in this use case, early detection of cancer improves survival rate from 13 to 44%. And AI improves average detection time by 12 to 13 months versus humans.
So when you say GPUs, quick definition, what does that mean to you, the
Graphic
listener?
processing units,
Yeah. So that's that could be in the day center. This is a server
a
of sorts.
superpod. So it's
Superpods.
Yeah, it's NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs. So Jensen Huang's well known out there. He started the company to bring video games to life, and now it has all gone to LLMs or large language models is what's driving all of this. Now, there's obviously other competitors with NVIDIA, but that is where the GPU and the large language model learning is, and it's continuously learning.
So for the technology architect that may be listening, let's further break this down to what the opportunity looks like. Because obviously, saving lives is awesome. That's a great thing. But in terms of solution selling, what solutions are we talking about here that make up this use case you mentioned?
Yeah, so it's a combination of things. So it's what we refer to as MOFN, managed optical fiber networks or private networks, and then also wavelength services. This requires zero loss, zero jitter, as little of latency as possible. So it can only be provided at layer one.
Excellent. So obviously, you need the connectivity, and a lot of these different connectivity providers bundle in the hardware, which is where you come in. So a lot of your gear is bundled in these solutions.
Correct.
Yeah, is there benefit to technology architects going behind the curtain or looking under the hood and understanding the different equipment? I guess it kind of depends on if you're on the networking engineering side, if you're just on the selling side. I mean, there are other different levels of knowledge that a technology architect or trust advisor would need to have.
Yeah, I think that's a large part of this learning session is to get them familiar with the size and the scale of these opportunities. We're not talking about just 100 gig services. We're talking about multiple 400 gig services and terabits and petabytes of traffic that's going in between these locations. And so that's where we encourage the TAs to leverage their TSDs and the TSDs to leverage us because we are the optical networking experts.
That's true. Like I said, my experience with Sienna goes way back when I was with the Cable Co. and sold a lot of fiber with Sienna gear, and the Sienna team was always really great to work with, getting on calls if the engineering team of the customer side had questions. So didn't have to be an expert per se in networking gear because we had your team to help us with that. So that was always really good. So that's in healthcare, and I know
Yeah, that's
we want
that that's just one example. If we were to look into pathology, if you take a look back over the last 50, 60, 70 years, healthcare providers, hospitals, doctors, clinicians are looking to digitalize their pathology slides. So that could be blood samples, kidney samples, liver samples, etc. And this is in the petabytes of capacity that is being moved on the pathology slide into the cloud providers so that they're able to index and fully dedicated resources in this scenario. And so it's 100 gig, 400 gig services that are required for this.
yeah, a lot of data.
Yeah, I can move into pharmaceutical use cases, where you know cloud providers are ingesting 24 terabits of capacity a day, and that's from processing roughly one human genome every 10 minutes. And so, what does that impact? Well, this allows us to process 30 million tests, as seen during the pandemic, with a turnaround time of less than 24 hours, a feat that was completely impossible without greater than 100 gig services. If we really get into the genomics side of things and the data volumes there, and the expectation of multinomics, and that's really measured in like tokens, where these data volumes could explode by 1,000 times more than they are today.
In these examples you're talking about, are we talking about large hospital systems, or is it the county and local hospital?
Yeah, so it's large healthcare systems. It's I would say publicly traded Fortune 500 extends a little bit outside of that as well, and then pharmaceuticals the same thing. It's everybody that is going after this. See economics start to make sense. This will hit regional healthcare systems if it hasn't already. I haven't seen that use case yet, but they are certainly leaning on the larger healthcare systems for their private GPUs.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of different information, white papers, articles out there talking about how, we're gonna start living longer because because of all the
Yeah,
benefits that AI is just taking all these studies and tests across the globe, and just like, GPT and ask you to write you a travel plan for your trip to Italy, it's great, because it has all this data, right? Well, that's
right.
the same thing in healthcare. They'll have all this data. In fact, I tell people all the time, AI is kind of pointless without data. And to get the data, obviously, it has to be transported. It's got to, have a transport. So this is what we're talking about here. Heavy focus on healthcare. Obviously, is that where you're seeing probably the real clear glowing opportunity? Is there another separate use case you want to bring up?
Yeah, I mean, outside of like the hyperscalers, I think that's where we will see most activity. So, I obviously see AI in really every other channel that there is out there. So whether that is financial, transportation, research and education, it's taking place in everything. And we're seeing a lot of other use cases out there where state transportation, Department of Transportations have put in cameras to analyze traffic. And if there's an accident, on average, AI detected the accident 8.4 minutes faster than traditional methods. Those are waiting for a 911 call or a police patrol to spot it. And so that has increased emergency vehicles arriving on the scene by roughly 8 minutes sooner. So this is saving lives. It's a lot like the healthcare model that I referenced with respect to GPUs. And these models are continuously being trained to alert authorities automatically.
This has been a great conversation. Is there anything else you want to leave us with? Anything we missed, or any last words you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I think it's the big thing is to get out there and have these conversations with your customers. Talk to them about how they're leveraging AI. This is much bigger than Chat GPT or Claude or Gemini or anything like that. This is about life-saving opportunities. I mean, we could double click on finance and its high frequency traders and banks for real time fraud detection. I gave a transportation example. There's also autonomous vehicles. There's a handful of players out there. And so this thing is a lot bigger than just healthcare. It's really in every vertical that there is, and to have those conversations and pull in your TSD and pull in your service provider, and we're here to help. That's the key message is we're here to help and drive and educate, the market on how AI is impacting big models out there.
Absolutely. AI is it's a great time to be in technology. It's a fun time, and just when you think you know it all, man, there's so much to learn. So I'm really glad that you're collaborating with the different solution providers and providing education and engineering conversation support when it comes to these opportunities. So thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
There's another episode of The Wireless Way. Be sure to check the show notes. I'll have some more information and links you'll find interesting. And as always, if you thought of a client, a customer, a colleague, as we were having this conversation, please share this episode with them. We'd like to get the word out and spread the good news of what technology is doing to make our lives better and even live longer, it seems. So thanks again to my guest, Hep, and we'll see you next time on The Wireless Way. Every 2 seconds, someone in the US needs blood for surgeries, cancer treatment, chronic illness, and traumatic injuries. Yet, only 3% of eligible Americans donate each year, leaving hospitals struggling to keep enough blood on the shelves. One blood donation can save up to 3 lives. With your help, we can make sure life-saving blood is ready before it's needed. If you're healthy and able, please roll up a sleeve and donate. Visit redcrossblood.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS to find a drive or donation center near you. Donate blood saves lives. It's easy, safe, and one of the most generous things you can do.